Welcome to episode 118 of Fine Music. That's right, time for another self-indulgent episode where I make these experienced music lovers listen to a younger guy. And I wonder if any of them or any of you out there have ever had this problem. Have you ever discovered a band and then realized there were two bands with the same name?
Metallica.
There's two Metallicas?
I think so.
Well, I've encountered four bands recently that were actually eight bands. So I'm going to just talk about them a little bit. I mean, they are discoveries. I think you would not know any of these four bands. Here goes. I'm going to give it a try. Bring up the old media player. Try to keep this brisk. Okay, so alphabetically, the first one is an interesting story. Here we go. Share. Let me get this album cover out of the way. High res album cover, Shirley Davis. Okay. And share. All right, thank you for waiting with bated breath. The first one is a band called, I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, Agincourt or Agincourt. And if you look at the release dates, you'll see a huge disparity there.
Mm-hmm.
When I go to those famous Eastern European download sites that Fred was mentioning earlier, I think Fred turned me on to that site. Yeah. And it's where I go if I can't find it anywhere else. And so this first one on YouTube, it was, Agincourt, whatever. And it was a folk band, folk music. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the album's called Fly Away, and it came out in 1970, and it's really pleasant. It's like, these are hippies that are actually still hippies in Happy Land. Okay. But then I'm looking on the famous Eastern European website, and there's another album by Agincourt. It's called Angels of Mons, and that's a huge clue there if you're a prog fan, because that's the name of a song by Steve Hackett from one of his solo albums.
Yeah.
But this is a heavy metal band. So, but I enjoyed it. I downloaded it because it's actually, as heavy metal goes, this is pretty damn melodic heavy metal. I liked it a lot. So you got two recommendations there with one name, both good. And they're calling the first one progressive rock, but it's really folk. Okay. Maybe there's a little trouble when it comes to labeling in other countries. They get lazy and they just slap a label on. All right, I'm going to go to a couple more. I hope you can endure here. Just to prove that this wasn't a one-trick thing that only happened once. It happened 4 times recently. This is the most recent one. It's a group called Blush Response. Now, you might have heard of the term Blush Response if you're a fan of Blade Runner. Okay, crickets. And so Blush Response has many albums, but then so does the other Blush Response. So basically, I like this Blush Response because they're industrial, bordering on techno. They're kind of like Nine Inch Nails, if you like Nine Inch Nails. A lot like Nine Inch Nails, but mainly instrumental. I like them. But here's the strange thing. When I went on YouTube and got my recommendation in the first place, it was a different Blush Response, a more contemporary one. And this group is in the 2010s, so it's not that far gone. There's a 2020s Blush Response, and they sound like kind of like Manchester music. You know about Manchester?
Yeah.
Okay, like Oasis and the Charlatans and the Happy Mondays, like that. So that's very different, these two bands, even though they have the same name. And how can they coexist? Maybe one's in Europe and the other's in America. I didn't research that, all right? But I like this one. And if you like those other bands, you can check out that other Blush response. So, all right, only 2 to go. These are both in the R's. Wing on down, wing on down. Wing on down. Yeah, I did a recent count of how much music I have on this media player. I have almost 20,000 songs.
Wow.
Yeah, so easy to collect when you're buying from Europe.
Yeah.
All right, so the first one is one click down farther, right? No, it's right here. Ragnarok. I'm not even sure that's how you say it. Help me out. I don't know. But they're definitely, I think they're from Northern Europe. But there's 2 of them. There's 2 of them. The one from the 70s, well, I think they're pretty much both from the 70s. So I'm like downloading these albums. I have 4 of them. Only 3 of them are the band I discovered, and the other one is another band. And the difference is the progressive rock, well, they're both considered progressive rock, but this Ragnarok is from like Norway, and the other one's from Sweden, you know, different countries. This one is instrumental progressive rock, and it has all those titles in a different language, right?
Yeah.
And then Nooks is from the same year, 76, but it's a band from another country, and there's singing on there. And it's quite good, right? They're just very vastly different. I don't have any notes on this band because I discovered them, these bands, because I discovered them a while ago, but very tasty instrumental progressive rock, melodic, never boring. But the Nooks one is, it made me think almost of Paul McCartney, because it's so lighthearted, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And the last one, yay. Maybe the strangest of them all. Boom. The band called Relayer. 2 bands called Relayer. Now, Relayer, for you Yes fans out there, you know that's the title of one of their albums.
Yeah.
And if my notes serve me well, I got to really check the notes on this one. Yeah, okay. So the 70s one, I might have mentioned them before. I don't know. I might have, but it sounds like a cross between ELP and Styx.
Okay.
Which might sound ghastly. I'm not a Styx fan. But I remember saying in an episode that, oh, but they sound better than Styx. But vocally, it's the high vocals, and instrumentally, a lot of keyboard there. And from that one was from, oh, that's the 1979. So it would definitely be influenced by those bands. They had their heyday around that time. But the other one is from 1991. And I only discovered it because, you know, I went on the Eastern European site, trying to get all the albums, and then realizing this is not the same band. And so this band is really interesting. I bought several albums by them. So let me show you real quick. Okay.
20-minute song on that one, man.
Yeah. So this is all the more contemporary Relayer, 2019, 2022, 1996. And of course, the old one is 1979. He's got the rainbow cover. And Last Man on Earth, 99. So I bought like 5 albums by this other Relayer, right? Grander Vision, was that? Yeah, and Facade. So at first, Grander Vision was the one I hit up first because it had that 20-minute song and a 9-minute song, and I was thinking, oh, this is going to be good, and it was. Then they tightened up, shortened their song lengths to more standard song lengths. The The longest thing on Facade is 6 or 7 minutes, see, and that's 2008. And then the newer ones, even shorter, right? So there's one 8-minute song, but everything else seems to be 4 or 5 minutes, 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. So they really tighten up their sound. The interesting thing about them for me is that this band is like an amalgam of many influences. So I'll just read it the way I wrote it down. Yes meets Pink Floyd, meets Rush, meets Styx, meets Steven Wilson, meets U2, meets Zeppelin, meets Queen.
Wow.
All that can be found in their music. It's really diverse. And so for prog fans, I highly recommend this. This was a great discovery, and I discovered it only because I had that other discovery with the same name. Have you had this problem? Then you can stop sharing too.
I had something similar, not exactly that, but a friend of mine, there's a band called Goose and there's a band called Geese. And my friend recommended one of them, and I went looking for it and found the other one. I was like, yeah, I really like this. And then he straightened me out, and I went and listened to the one that he recommended, and they were just like a standard jam band.
So it sounds to me like somebody started some experiments with human cloning.
So they just don't come out the same.
Wow.
Not at all. You think there'd be contractual issues? I'll mention a little sidelight here that is a very unknown thing. Okay. Everybody's heard of a band called Asia?
Yeah.
Big in the 80s, heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Well, did you know that Asia had to buy the name from another band that
Wow.
had 2 albums in 79 and 80? They were called Asia, and basically they were wiped from the face of the earth so the new Asia could exist.
Wow.
You cannot find their albums anywhere but on YouTube. You have to go Asia 1979, Asia 1980. I couldn't find them anywhere.
Wow.
So if you buy a band's name, you can wipe them from the face of the earth. I can think of several bands that might be,
Well,
might be worth that.
name that price.
Well, look in the 60s, that Moby Grape's manager owned It's a Beautiful Day and Moby Grape's name.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, to this day, It's a Beautiful Day can't perform under their name. David LaFlame is David LaFlame and Friends.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
when I went to see them on Santa Monica Pier years ago, the MC came out and said, "Isn't it a beautiful day out here?" Out
Well, I
here, it's
actually had a
wonderful.
friend of mine had his band name stolen from it. He had a band called the Groovin' Lunatics, and he put out an album under that name. And then someone came to him and said, "No, I've got a trademark on that name. You can't use it." But the other person never did anything with it.
Wow.
It's like tried to get my friend to basically to buy the name back.
Wow. Yeah,
I think the Smiths had run into that problem at some point.
Yeah.
Such a common name. Well,
yeah,
okay.
that happened to me with My Pet Cheeseburger Stories. My CDs are out, and I put it, since they've been out, I assume I own the copyright to My Pet Cheeseburger Stories, but then someone emailed me and said, I own the copyright to My Pet Cheeseburger, and wanted to know if I want to buy it. And I never answered them. Fuck you, man.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the same sort of thing. I mean, that people, there are definitely people who like register URLs.
Right. And then you have to buy the URL.
Yeah.
It's just,
All right, I'm glad I made a mess.
That's okay.
Thank you for your contribution. You made this episode.
It is a problem, and I'm kind of surprised that you managed to find 4 bands who hadn't had legal issues over having the name.
Well, I don't know if they have.
Maybe they
Do
have.
they know each other exist?
John Fogerty had some of these issues too, I think.
You did remind me of something though. Sweet. Everybody's heard of Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's an American suite and a European suite, and they agreed never to perform on each other's continents.
Oh,
Wow.
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 Yeah, so
Wow.
that's their
Really?
agreement, right?
Oh, because I've seen the suite on American TV, the ones that had the hits.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, back when they had hits, they were one band, but now here we are, they're legacy
Oh,
band. They're
oh,
legacy
there's
bands,
two.
legacy bands, plural.
Oh, wow.
Sweet in England is one member, Andy Scott.
Hmm.
And the Sweet in America was another member who recently passed away.
Wow. Yeah, I just read an article on Southern rock bands, all 38 Special, Molly Hatchet and all those bands. They none of hardly any of them have any original members. They're all
Yeah,
touring.
it's a brand name. Yeah,
Yeah.
Boy Brown.
Jefferson Starship. There are no
Yeah.
original
Yeah.
members.
No.
Well, there was
Yeah.
for a while. There were two Leonard Skinners for the same thing.
Really?
They went off and they fought it out in court, and one band ended up getting to keep the name. But
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Stairway
This
to
is the
Freebird. Have you ever heard that song?
episode. What?
Stairway to
This is-
Freebird.
you heard, yeah.
That's the Reverend Billy C. Wirtz, WIRTZ.
Okay,
We're leaking into another episode now, so I got
Yeah.
to stop the bleeding.
okay.
'Cause this is the episode that will never end. Thank you for your contributions, guys.
Thank
you made
you.
us a great,
Hey,
better
you.
episode than I could make it.
That was fun.
All right. Whew.